Let's talk about the different dark muses and different perfumes that would be paired with each of the dark muses. If you are new here, hi, my name is Melissa, and if you have no idea what I'm talking about and is wondering what are these dark muses, so it is a system of sorts that I thought of in terms of if you are trying to achieve a dark aesthetic, but you feel like what is up here is not exactly translating in terms of how you're addressing external expression. The Dark Muses is a sort of source of inspiration without having to rely on celebrities or people in general. They are ethereal entities that you can strive to look like or have this aura and feeling like. The Dark Muses is vampire, witch, siren, haunted doll, and fairy. And today we are going to be particularly talking about the different scent profiles that I personally would associate with each of the dark muses. Now keep in mind, when it comes to any of my dark muse videos, going to be a bit on the abstract side. And the best way to approach the dark muses in general is to think less literally and think more of an overall feeling, a vibe, do storytelling, because when it comes to dressing and self-expression in terms of what you choose to wear and the closet that you build for yourself, a form of creativity, it is a form of artistry, and these dark muses is just meant to be a tool to help you in that journey. When it comes to perfumes, it is super subjective. So some of the brands and scent profiles that I'm going to be talking about today is, again, my opinion, and the way things smell on my skin or other people's skin is going to be different. Again, it's going to be based off of a feeling. When it comes to vampire, the smells that I associate with anything vampiric is going to be smoky, metallic, especially since a lot of bloody scents is associated with that metallic smell. Musk, pepper, and spicy scents. Which, being the most natural of the five muses, I'm thinking the scents are going to be earthy, herbally, maybe sometimes medicinal, musky, fresh, and floral. Siren is also going to be fresh, but think of like a breath of fresh air, very open type of scents. Sometimes salty, like mimicking the scent of a salty ocean, aquatic scents, coconut, or any type of fruit that mimics that feeling of being near the ocean, and maybe linen or like fresh laundry that's airing out in the open air. Haunted doll is going to be powdery, maybe makeup powder, maybe baby powder, vanilla-y, gourmand, sweet, and scents that feel soft. Fairy is going to be fruity, but unlike witch, it's going to be like a fun, bubbly kind of fruity, or type of fruit where there is some unexpected element to it, whereas like the fruit of the witch scents is going to smell like freshly picked fruit. Fairy may also be florally, like a bright kind of floral, sweet, and a little flirty. To achieve that dark aesthetic, it has to be coming from almost a metaphorical, poetic type of feeling, because when you take things too literally, it starts to feel a bit stale, and I feel like this also applies to scents as well. Now, when it comes to smells and scents, obviously there are also, by the way, I'm not a professional perfumer and I may not have the most accurate terms. So I'm going to be speaking this from a very metaphorical place and also what they remind me of from my own personal experiences. So when it comes to the different dark muses and the idea of what scents would be associated with them. Vampire, it's going to give off an animalistic type of scent. Smoking lounges. It's going to be the most seductive of the scents. Witch, again, very natural, very foresty, so maybe the smell of a forest after the rain. Caves and wet dirt. Medicinal herbs. Fresh fruit. Siren is going to be locations by the sea. That's why anything that's fresh, I think of siren. It's the most open air of the muses in terms of scent profiles. Haunted doll, the smell of a doll's face, which is probably the smell of baby powder. Freshly brewed tea, the sweets at a tea party, makeup powder, the smell of nostalgia. Fairy, again, this is going to be the most flirty, the most fun, and the most bright and unexpected, mimicking that very cheeky energy that fairies tend to have. Okay, let's do a breakdown of particular brands. Now, keep in mind, I wasn't able to purchase or try every single dark aesthetic, trending perfumery that is going on right now. I purchased discovery sets, sample sets of brands that intrigued me, and I found some of their particular perfumes I actually did want to try. I feel like would perfectly fit into one of the dark muses. Now, Heretic Parfum is definitely like the immediate brands that people think of when it comes to a gothic profile or a dark aesthetic perfume brand. They sent me a package recently of their newest scent, Midnight Toker. I did a TikTok and an Instagram of it, but to recap my first impressions of it, Midnight Toker, just like its name insinuates, it's a very smoky type of scent, but in a soft way. It reminds me of a jazz lounge. It reminds me of a smoky bourbon cocktail. And it triggered a memory in me in terms of like, it actually reminded me of this super smoky Manhattan I had in Florida. And you get a little bit of that sweetness in here because of the vanilla. So Heretic, I feel like, definitely fits a lot of vampire, witch, and some siren scents, but mainly vampire and witch scents. In particular, the Blood Box, which is a discovery set that is sold on their website, has scents like blood cedar, blood orange, dragon's blood. They're different blood inspired scents, and I feel like this is a very obvious vampiric type of scent profiles. So I would look into the Blood Box, and even the scent that I tried today, which is Midnight Toker, and anything on the website that has scents of or notes of smoke, blood, and oud. Now, witch is also a scent profile that I feel like you could easily find on Heretic. They even have a discovery set called Season of the Witch, and I know that's really literal, but a lot of these scents are a bit earthy and musky. Voodoo Lily definitely intrigued me the most, and that's one I definitely want to try next. The Season of the Witch box, again, is a discovery set that I recommend if this is the scent profile you're drawn to in terms of the dark muses, and you're looking for earthy notes, florals, and a little bit of musk. There were a couple of siren scents that are on their website. I do own Dirty Coconut, and I definitely can say that this is a siren, maybe a hint of witch type of scent because it's a musky coconut, but it still smells very fresh. Dirty Hinoki, I would say, is a pure siren scent. It is extremely clean and almost like very hints of citrus in the background. What you're looking for with siren at Heretic is anything where they insinuate it's going to be a calming scent. Like Dirty Hinoki was described to be a Japanese forest bath. Now, when it comes to looking into different perfume brands, I think for the most part, most of them are going to try to appeal to as many customers as they can. So finding different dark muses within different brands is probably possible. So like shown in Heretic, you're going to find scents that are vampiric, maybe witch, maybe some siren, but you could tell most of the brand caters to a lot of smoky, mature, musky type of scents, and that's why a lot of it is going to lean towards vampire and witch. There are brands though that do feel purely haunted doll, and based off of what I read and based off of the 2 samples that I got to try, I feel like Petals Poison is the perfect brand if you are looking for a haunted, very unsettling doll tea party type of scents. Petals Poisons, they have very unique, almost powdery tea, cakes, warm milk type of profiles. Melancholy Manor is scented with black tea, rose, lily of the valley, and shortbread cookie. Now, when I smelled this, that powder was definitely very overwhelming. And so if you're really into powdery gourmands, I feel like this would be for you because you definitely get that powdery scent, but also like that hint of sweet cookies. Deadmore Manor is scented with tiny cakes, black currants, baby powder, and warm milk. And again, this is another powdery scent, but instead of cookies, I definitely got a milky, almost lactonic scent. Okay, so I did not expect to get samples of Fugazzi, which you can get on Arielle Shoshana. And the reason why I got Fugazzi samples was because I actually got the Discovery set of Arielle Shoshana's Monday, Tuesday perfumes. And when I smelled Fugazzi, it was almost like an all fairy brand. When it comes to Fugazzi, a lot of the scents kind of reminded me of a fruity cocktail, and I feel like that's what the fairy profiles remind me of. Fairy, like the name and its origin insinuates, fairy is going to have some fruity floral notes like you would picture in a garden. Fairies are very cheeky and cunning, and there's like always unexpected elements to a fairy, and I feel like that would be expressed in perfume as well. So as opposed to a freshly picked apple, that would be witch. If it's an apple teeny, then that would probably be fairy. The Fugazzi scent Sugar Daddy smelled like a pure cosmopolitan, and you're at this cocktail party that is decorated in all pink decorations. It was a very sweet scent, and it was very fun and bubbly. And this felt like pure fairy at its core. Now, although this is not fairy, I definitely feel like this would be a friend of a fairy muse. Saint Remy was definitely the more cologne type of scent where it had that masculine dry down. And I hesitate to say that because I do believe a lot of scents are unisex. There is this particular cologne scent. Maybe it's musky, and maybe that's why I associate Saint Remy with a vampire scent, but it has a powdery opening that feels like Haunted Doll. So it has this vampiric doll feel to it. Now, when it comes to Cash Flower straight up smells like what I would imagine the dressing room of Moulin Rouge or some kind of Baz Luhrmann movie. It was very rose forward, but peppery. And that's why this scent reminded me of a burlesque dancer, and that would be a mix of Haunted Doll and fairy. Nui Cobalt Designs is often recommended whenever you are looking for a very particular scent. I was actually very fortunate enough to have met the founder of Nui Cobalt, and she's very, very sweet. And I messaged her and asked her, of the 5 dark muses, which of her scents would she associate with each of the dark muse? So these recommendations are coming directly from her. So when it comes to vampire, she recommended Secret Woman. Now, Secret Woman has a primal, generative, destructive scent. It has a sensory manifestation of mystery. It has spiced pomegranate, which seems very perfect for the vampire scent profile that I have mentioned, myrrh, blood, very, very vampiric. Now, when it comes to witch, she recommended the Temple of Babylon. It is this erotic aroma of passionate encounters of the sorceress kind. Now, when it comes to siren, this one definitely feels like an Arctic type of siren. It has an icy oceanic scent to it. Haunted Doll, I love the scent profile of this and how she described it. It is what she calls a quirky contraption of lining things up and getting well organized. It has top notes of yellow mandarin, fresh rosemary, a heart of sandalwood, and a base of bronze musk, black amber, benzoin, which I definitely would associate like the most, which is what gives it almost like a steampunk type of doll scent. And then fairy, she recommended Sugar Plum Fairy, and this fits the fairy bright, fruity scent profile to a T. It has a warmth and regality to it, black iris, amber, dry vanilla, and spice. I was so excited to do this video that, like I said, I bought a bunch of samples where I could, and I wanted to ensure that I had a lot of information to include in this video, and now I'm realizing like that would end up being a 2-hour video. So we're going to do a speed round of some of the other brands that I wanted to talk about that I tried out and how I would pair them up with each of the different dark muses. And maybe we can make it a game where I'll say the brand, I'll talk about the notes, and mainly talk about the feel that it gives me, and I'll give you a second and you can guess which muse you think. Okay, so I had to try the Arielle Shoshana scents because the Sunday, Monday, Tuesday, Friday, and Saturday scents were all based off different tea scents, and that was definitely a scent profile that I have been interested in recently because I feel like there's just not too many tea scents out there. I feel like the mainstream market really prioritizes either spicy scents or vanilla scents. Starting out with Sunday. So Sunday, the moment I smelled it, it reminded me of straight up matcha latte. Like, this is the most photorealistic, is that how you would say that? The most realistic matcha latte with a hint of horchata, because there is a cinnamon note in there, so it literally smells like a fresh cafe drink. So can you guess what I feel like a matcha latte and horchata scent would smell like? Not taste like. Oh, but I do want that right now. So this one actually reminded me of Haunted Doll with a very hint of siren. So this scent literally reminded me of being at a tea party, but there was almost like, it was like I was at a tea party in Japan. You have this matcha latte note that you can't ignore, and that inspiration that you would get from traditional Japanese culture, but it had this scent of softness and that gourmand scent I would associate with Haunted Doll. Now Monday, so the Monday scent, this one was more like a London fog latte. Very light on the latte because I don't really get a milky note as much as I did with the Sunday. Sunday definitely, it's almost like it was like a coconut matcha latte. This one is like a splash of milk type of London fog, but there is that strong bergamot or maybe like citrusy scent. So this one I thought smelled like witch and siren. So a lot of these tea scents, I actually thought they would be all Haunted Doll, but this one, like the first two, Sunday, Monday, has that tea scent, but in a very fresh way. So it actually reminded me of witch and siren. So witch because I picture like a city witch, like a witch who is walking the streets of London and is holding a London fog, but it has that freshness from the citrus note, and that's where I get siren from. Now Tuesday is a mint tea. So it reminded me of, like when I envisioned it, when I smelled Tuesday smelled like this fresh mint, I think it's a Moroccan mint tea, and I almost envisioned the painting Ophelia. Like the moment I smelled it, I pictured the Ophelia painting. There is a hint of basil in there as well. So Tuesday, I would say, is actually a pure siren, but not an oceanic type of siren, maybe more of like a nymph that is in a water lily pond, which I guess would be more of a siren and with a hint of witch, but it was so fresh and so like it almost like cleansed your palate. So when it comes to Friday definitely smelled like a citrus tea. It low-key reminded me of a 2000s body spray that you would get from Victoria's Secret. That's not a bad thing. I'm just saying what it reminded me of. Gives me the feeling of like a young adult novel, fresh, like a fresh love, romance, and I envision whenever like young adult novels are taking place at Martha's Vineyard. I wouldn't say this is like an immediate dark aesthetic scent. So I would say this is like a pure fairy. All right, let's talk about Saturday. Saturday has a very strong passion fruit note, and in a way that was like the only thing I smelled. And I actually pictured, out of all the teas, like I got like warm teas or fresh hot lattes. This one, Saturday, was definitely like an iced passion fruit tea. It reminds me of Marina Diamandis, Marina and the Diamonds during the Tumblr era. Like, I don't know how to explain it, but it's like a very fun, youthful, naive time, but there's a bit of like grunge to it, but like in a Tumblr way. Does that make sense? Okay, this one reminded me of Fairy. Okay, so I also want to talk about Dime. So Dime is actually my new favorite, and I notice like out of all the scents that I smell, every time I'm drawn to a particular scent, it always smells like something fresh or like freshly showered hair. Like that's like my favorite type of smell. You know, I've always been kind of like, oh, maybe I should be something into a bit more darker to match my style, my physical style. But the thing is, it's kind of nice when you have like this juxtaposition and you don't always have to be quite literal with everything, like I mentioned. Dime, almost every one of Dime's samples, because I got the sample set, it was a very fresh type of scent, to the point where the entire brand almost felt like one Muse with nuances of some of the other Muses, but it was definitely one in particular. And it was Siren. I don't know if this game is working, but my favorite scent that I got from Dime, like I got a full size because I got the sample set and then I got a full size. I got 7 Summers. I was actually really surprised I liked it as much as I did, because when I was reading the scent profile, I was like, I'm not sure if I'm gonna like that. It smells a little too sweet. But it's actually very light and airy. It smells like sweet coconut milk with a hint of pear and bergamot, and it has a sort of skin, very natural scent to it. And it kind of I would say this would be Siren and Fairy. It's Siren because it has that openness, that freshness, and that tropical fruit, which is like that coconut milk. But Fairy because there's like hints of that bright pear. Okay, next I want to talk about D.Grayi perfume. So D.Grayi is a Vietnamese owned, I would say it's an indie perfumery, but they're getting up there. I definitely feel like they deserve much more recognition. I feel like D.Grayi does such a beautiful job of capturing Asian experiences, because a lot of these scents are very realistic to the experiences that the founder of D.Grayi is describing. So, for example, he has a jasmine rice perfume, and when I smelled it, it had a makeup powder scent to it. It definitely had a strong jasmine, like the flower, like the floral note to it, and rice powder. And it was like an overall, like overwhelming powdery scent. So it wasn't for me. This entire scent journey actually made me realize that maybe powdery scents aren't actually my jam. I felt like jasmine rice would actually fit perfectly for Haunted Doll. There was Cosmic Serpent, which was actually my personal favorite. It was inspired by his psychedelic experience. To me, it smelled like a blueberry boba tea in a way. It was very earthy. It almost smelled like wet rain and blueberry tea, like I mentioned. It has a very strong black tea note to it. My knowledge and my bandwidth for how many scents and sample scents that I can try is super limited. So I thought I could ask some fellow dark muses that are mutuals on my different socials and ask them what their favorite perfumes are. And I almost used it as a test to see if the muse that I associated them with, if it matches the scent profile as well. First off, let's talk about the lovely and amazing Cemetery. When I asked her what her favorite perfume scents are, she said that I personally like smoky, woody, and wet smells. Concrete, bonfire, morning grass, and I only purchase from Burke and Hare. It reminds me of like a fireplace in a vampiric castle. I know I'd classified her as vampire. I'd say Cemetery, like in terms of style. Like we were talking and I was like, you remind me of the vampire dark muse, and she was like, definitely, but a sassy vampire, and I love that. For the most part, the smoky bonfire type of scent is definitely vampiric, but a bit of that like wet smell I think would be a little bit of witch. But when it comes to my friend Desiree style is super bright and seductive and very fun. Her style is a little vampiric because it has that sultriness to it, but with the color that you see in her hair and the pops of color and patterns in her style, she is almost this perfect combination of vampire and fairy. And when I asked about her favorite perfumes, and she has a lot of perfumes, she said my fave is Dalat by Donam. It's a super sultry vampire rose and red wine fragrance. But for fairy, definitely Birth of Venus by Argos. I love Soy Malachi, which, I'm sorry if I didn't pronounce that right, which to me is the perfect combination of the two, as in the two muses. It is fruity with a black currant, bergamot, but also sultry with rose, silk, and cacao. I definitely had to include one of my mutuals who is actually a perfume content creator. It's nice to get someone who has a very vast palette. I decided to ask my mutual Lex Smells, who is, again, like I said, is a scent, fragrance content creator. But in terms of style, Lex is this beautiful envision of what I envision for the siren. She says, so I've picked 2 different fragrances for a siren. The first being Blanche Bête by Liquids Imaginaries. It's alluring and comforting. It's light and airy, but sensual and draws you in. My second I picked is very representative of the true depth and darkness of a siren, when you've come out of the illusion of innocence and realize you're lured in, which is Fruto Oscuro. I had to include one of the queens of corporate goth, as well as almost everyone's favorite goth gardener, Chloe Hurst. So when I asked Chloe what her favorite perfumes were, she got really excited, and she is a huge fan and collector of fragrance. She said, "I'm mainly a YSL girl." She loves Libre, Montpellier, Black Opium. She also likes Bad Witch, Little Black Hex, Sacred Heart from Wick Witch Apothecary. A lot of them are either really sultry, dark floral, ambery gourmands. I've showed my friend Aussie Dom in several of my videos, mainly showcasing someone who exhibits being the dark muse of witch. I would say she also has like a little bit of siren in her, but definitely mainly witch. And I asked her what her favorite scents were. I'd say my fave is Gentle Fluidity Gold by Maison Franck. It's my favorite on a personal level because my dad bought it for me, but scent-wise, I love the androgynous nature of it. I'm particularly partial to musky scents, and this one just makes me feel expensive and powerful. And I felt like that was actually very suiting for a musky, witchy type of scent. And also the fact that it has that feeling of that empowerment that you would feel like from a spell or from a potion. Like, it empowers her, it makes her feel a certain way. And I feel like that's the beauty in perfumes and fragrance, like it's very transformative. So Alyssa Bradley, or also known as Miss Liss across Instagram and TikTok. So whenever I would look at her style and her content, she immediately gives me witch, like pure witch. But when I asked her what her favorite scents and fragrances are, it definitely felt more haunted doll forward. Alyssa said, "I love anything sweet. It's actually ridiculous. I just have always loved gourmands my whole life, and instead of trying to change those preferences to something more typically goth, I just roll with it." Killian Black Phantom is a super rich unisex dark rum chocolate caramel. Another one of her favorites is Killian Love Don't Be Shy, which is a sweet marshmallow floral. And that's the beauty when it comes to scents. Even though you have a dark aesthetic one way, you can use scent and fragrance to add a level of complexity to your style and look and overall feel. I feel like style is more than just this physical surface level that we see. It's a part of ourselves, and not to get like too attached to like what you wear, but it is essentially an extension of your identity. My friend Carl Ricky of the band Masking so her band that she's in is very reminiscent to me of like the early 2000s. Whenever I listen to Carl's voice and like their music in general, I get like a hint of Hayley Williams, a little bit of Amy Lee, and then in terms of style, she has this ethereal, but yet like there's a bit of spunk in her style. And I would say Carl's style is like fairy, with a hint of witch. She actually said she identifies with more of what would be considered fairy. She said, "I lean towards sweeter scents, but the perfumes I end up using could be considered androgynous. Brands I have on hand is Nest. And then my current favorite is Egyptian Musk. That was a typo on my end, by Niemat. So Egyptian Musk, I actually do own Egyptian Musk, and it actually reminds me of a muskier, more mature version of Marc Jacobs Daisy. And Marc Jacobs Daisy is like this bright floral, so it's interesting that Egyptian Musk by Niemat actually has a lot of similarities to it, except it smells a bit more mature. So I would say Carl's scent profile is like fairy forward with like a hint of witch in there because you have that earthy muskiness. If you cannot tell by the end of this video, but my favorite Dark Muse scent profile is more so of siren and sometimes with a hint of fairy. Considering my new favorite scent out of this whole discovery was Dime's Seven Summers. Well, I didn't discover this from this video. I've already known I like Dirty Coconut from Heretic. But these scent profiles really give me a siren type of feel with little nuances from some of the other Dark Muses, but I tend to always lean towards more fresh type of scents. Like if I'm going to get a floral scent, it needs to be fresh and nothing too sweet. If it's going to be a milky scent, it has to be like like very fresh. If you watched my previous videos, you know that I'm also in love with Cow by Zoologist. And I did not mention Zoologist because I did not buy any new samples, but I did already do a deep dive into some samples I did personally buy in a previous video, which I'll put right here. I have mentioned time and time again that squid is associated with siren, so I did not want to repeat that. And I have to say that because someone in my comments is going to be all like, where's this, where's that? Please keep in mind, I try not to repeat things in my videos, and if I didn't mention it here, it's probably because I mentioned it in another video way back. If you watched this whole thing, what scent profile do you feel like fits you the most in terms of the dark muses? Even though you dress a certain way, do you fit more of a vampiric scent, a witchy scent, siren, haunted doll, or fairy? I hope you enjoyed this video, and most of all, I hope you had fun. And until next time, I hope you have a great week. Bye.